Well, good morning, Focus Church. I'm Pastor Jessica, and thank you. Man, you guys are getting me hyped up already. Well, side note, we are a holler back church, so you guys can do me a favor. I want some participation today, all right? So the louder you get, the louder I get. Let's go. Well, I'm so grateful to be here this morning, and it's truly an honor that I get to be on this platform with you. And I do want to give a few mentions of honor before we get started. First and foremost, to Pastor Darren and Pastor Jenny, our lead pastors. Can we give it up for them? They're on their sabbatical. The month of July, they take July off, but we did get to actually see them last week. That's how much they love our church. They made a guest appearance because we had Pastor Dino Rizzo last week. How amazing was that message? So if you weren't here, please go online, go to our YouTube channel and check it out. It was such an incredible message by Pastor Dino. And that man, I told him afterwards, I said, "You're funny." Like I was surprised. He was a little offended, I think. Like, I'm funny. But it was so great to have him. He's one of our overseers of our church, and it was truly an honor to have him here in person. And side note, he picked to come here in July. We did not ask him. We would never do that to him, but he had a great time and he felt so welcome. So thank you guys for making him feel so welcomed. And before Pastor Dino, we actually had the honor of hearing from Pastor Rodney. Pastor Rodney preached a few weeks ago. Yes. And I love hearing from Pastor Rodney because he has such a love for God after 55 years in ministry. He still is so passionate, and his word was amazing. How to be a successful person. I want to be a successful person, and when I see success, I look at him and his wife absolutely for what success looks like. So thank you for sharing that word. And actually, I thanked Pastor Rodney because he gave me an intro to my sermon because he said that we each take turns in the lineup and that it was like a baseball lineup and he was batting third. So I had to go ahead and ask ChatGPT what it meant to, yes, I do. I use that thing daily, yes. What it means to bat fifth. So here's what it means to be the fifth batter up. It's usually a strong offensive player, let's go, who can drive in runs, but might not be as consistent or speedy as the players in third or fourth spot. So I might not be as speedy as you, Pastor Rodney and Pastor Dino, but I think we've got a good word today. So let's get into it. We are in the middle of our series we call Name Droppers, where we take a look at people in the Bible because let's be real, those are the best people that we can learn from. And I want to ask you guys a question. Are you the person in your relationship or in your home that loses things? You can raise your hand, it's all right. Keys, wallets. You better raise your hand. That's my husband right there. I'm going to tattle on you because he absolutely loses his wallet at least once a week. Am I right? Yes. Not to mention keys. We won't even talk about keys. And so what we did for him is I got him one of those wallets that has an AirTag slot. And if you don't know what an AirTag is, it's just a simple little chip that you can put anywhere and you connect it to your phone so that when you lose something, you look it up on your phone. Hey, there it is. I found it. And so I got him one of those and I asked him, I'm like, "Hey, why aren't you using your new Apple chip wallet yet?" And you know what he said? He lost it. Yeah, it's gone. I have no idea where it went. Side note, I do want to give a little shout out to my husband because I don't think I get up here and not mention him in some way. And he's always a trooper about it because he knows what it's like to be married to somebody in ministry. Our entire life is a ministry sermon series. So can we give it up for my husband for just a second? Yes. So grateful for you and the support that he gives me to be up here with you today. And so when you lose something, if you're that person that loses something, especially in public, it is the worst feeling ever. In fact, when I was getting ready this morning, I was trying to decide if I wanted to wear my smartwatch because I wear it everywhere. And it was either going to distract me with the buzzing or distract me because it was missing, like that feeling. You know what I'm talking about? And when you lose something, typically it ends up in a lost and found. And if you guys didn't know, if you look around, this is actually a school during the week. And if you didn't know that, we do a great job of transforming this room then. So it's a school, and we know when school's in session because when we come in for setup during the winter, the lost and found is piled high. We have water bottles, jackets, backpacks. I've even seen a shoe, like a shoe. I don't know how that happened, but I'm not judging because there was one time I was coming home from church with my son, walking out to our car, and he had one shoe on. I had no idea when or where it happened, but I am positive that my son traded it in for a fruit snack because that is what he lives for. And I appreciate the hustle, so I wasn't upset. We did find the shoe, though, by the way. So why am I talking about lost things and lost and found? Well, because today I want to remind people that some of us live like we are a part of God's lost and found. We feel abandoned. We feel lost. We feel forgotten. We feel like God is silent and he's not there for us. And I want here to remind you that that is not how Jesus sees us. In fact, Jesus sees that lost and found like a seasoned thrifter looking for treasure. And when he finds that what he's looking for, he doesn't just leave it there. He restores it. He takes that old worn out table and he turns it into a beautiful masterpiece. And that is what happened to my name dropper today. Today we are talking about Mary Magdalene. Mary Magdalene was a woman with a past. We're going to get into her story today, but she was absolutely that person that was talked about. If there was a gossip network in her town, she was number one on the phone list. People talked about her. She had a past, but Jesus didn't see that past. He saw something else. He saw her future, he saw her story, and he saw what she would become. And I cannot wait to tell you about it today because Mary Magdalene is a name that we all know, but very rarely do we hear about her story. So we're going to pick up in Luke chapter 8, where we see Mary here. It says, soon afterward, Jesus began a tour of the nearby towns and villages, preaching and announcing the good news about the kingdom of God. He took his 12 disciples with him, along with some women who had been cured of evil spirits and diseases. Among them were Mary Magdalene, from whom he cast out 7 demons. I want to emphasize that today. 7 demons, not 1, not 2, but 7. We hear all the time in the Bible stories of people that are inflicted with demons, and it's typically 1. But she had 7. Mary was not just having a bad day. It wasn't just that time of the month. It was a bad day. It was a bad year. It was a bad season. She was in torment. She was tortured. I can't even imagine what her life was like. When she was conflicted with these demons, I do imagine people seeing her and walking across the street to avoid her, or mothers holding their children in close because they didn't want to see the torment that was in Mary. But Mary's story tells us she was freed from these demons and Jesus still chose her. So I want to remind you today that your past does not disqualify you. It absolutely does not. And if you look at Mary's story, it is proof, but I have more proof because here at Focus Church, if the Bible says it, we're going to believe it. So we're going to go through some verses today pretty quickly. 2 Corinthians 5:17 says this. This means that anyone, someone say anyone, that is every single one of you who belongs to Christ has become a new person. The old life is gone, a new life has begun. Romans 8:1 says, now there is no condemnation for those who belong to Jesus Christ. Isaiah 43 says this, but forget all that. It is nothing compared to what I am going to do, for I'm about to do something new. Philippians 3:13, the verse prior to our church's verse. No, dear brothers and sisters, I have not achieved it, but I focus on this one thing, forgetting the past and looking to what lies ahead. Do you guys see the pattern here? Do you see the trend of what God is telling us? Your past does not disqualify you from being used by God. And Mary's story shows us this is evident. God takes those pages of your book that you are trying to rip out, and he picks up the pen and he writes it into your story. You see, your testimony might be the very thing that is powered by your past. And that's exactly what happened to me. What I walked through as a child, what was done to me, left scars and wounds that took a very long time to heal. You see, I was abused as a child, and I saw myself in a way that I shouldn't have. It led myself to seeing myself as a broken person, even at a young age. And I started to make really bad decisions that no child should have to navigate emotionally, physically, and unfortunately, relationally. I tried to mask the pain by being physically active with boys at a tragically young age. And I was in so much pain, and I tried to mask that pain with more pain. But God didn't leave me there. And in high school, still making those really dumb decisions, I got invited to youth group. And I said no about 1,000 times, but finally, after asking again and again, I said yes. And I went and I met Jesus there. And I said yes, and I was baptized. But that wasn't the end of my testimony. Because you see, what I felt was I was surrounded by these perfect people. They were perfect in my eyes. And I started to learn what grace was. Grace was amazing, but grace wasn't for me. I started to see people being healed, but I realized that the healing wasn't for me. And God still met me there. So I left and I moved actually to downtown Seattle, and I followed back into the old patterns and that old life of destruction. And I decided The best place to continue that destruction was Scottsdale, Arizona. Yet, the people ask me, why did you move here? And I don't want to tell them the truth. But I moved here, and again, God met me there because a few weeks after I moved to Arizona, I met my husband. And I gave up the destruction and the life, and we were married. And I still held on to that pain, though. But Mary's story shows us that when we are in the middle of our darkness, when we are feeling like God is not there, when we feel like Jesus can't enter the room because the light's not on, I want you to remember that Jesus is the light. Jesus is the light. And Psalms 139:12 says this, but even in the darkness, I cannot hide from you. To you, the night shines bright as day. Darkness and light are the same to you. So when you're in the middle of your pain, of your past, and you feel like it's dark, all you have to do is remember that Jesus doesn't have to wait for you to be healed to enter the room because Jesus is the light. If you are sitting here today and you are feeling like the pain of your past is too much, the things you have done are too bad, I want to remind you that God does not care about any of that. So let's see what happens next to Mary. We continue on Luke chapter 8, verses 2 and 3. Among them were Mary Magdalene, again, whom he cast out 7 demons, Joanna, the wife of Chuza, Herod's business manager Susanna, and many others who were contributing from their own resources to support Jesus and his disciples. So we see Mary, she's been healed from these demons, and she has one of 2 choices to make. Choice number 1, which was what I did, is you could say, cool, thanks, Jesus, you're awesome, bye, like just move on. Or choice number 2, she stayed, she followed, and then she gave. We see in this verse that she and the other woman supported Jesus' mission with their own resources. I did some study on Mary Magdalene, and it said that she left everything behind. She picked up and she went. This shows us that God does not want to do ministry with us out of obligation. You see, God could absolutely do ministry just like Mary did without us. He doesn't need us. He's kind of the most powerful being around. He could absolutely save people on his own, but he doesn't want to. He wants to do it out of love. Have you ever baked with a toddler? Anyone? Okay, all the moms here are like, yeah, we have. So you could absolutely do it so much faster, less messy, and probably taste a whole lot better without their help, right? We do not need their help. No, but instead, there's something miraculous about that moment when that toddler steps up on that stool or you set them on the counter and they start stirring and their face lights up. And you realize something. It has nothing to do with perfect brownies, but everything to do with a shared moment together. That it has to do with a moment shared out of love. And I'm here to tell you that that is exactly how God sees doing ministry with each and every one of us. He does it out of love, not out of obligation. And that is what I want to remind you of today. God doesn't need your perfect, just your yes. God doesn't need your perfect, just your participation. He's not looking for perfect because if he was, you look at the Bible, he would be waiting around for a really long time for perfect people. In fact, I don't think we'd even have the Bible if he was looking for perfect. And so I found myself here in Arizona, married to my wonderful husband, and the pain of my past was still here. It was still deep, and I carried it right into my marriage. And one day, something happened. It wasn't this miraculous moment. It wasn't like Pastor Darren getting hit upside the head outside of a burrito truck. It was one small thing. It was an invitation to a church, this church. And we said yes, and we showed up. And I am so sorry, Pastor Darren. I have absolutely no idea what you preached about that day. But what I do remember is feeling something after that day that I hadn't felt my entire adulthood. That feeling I had that very first day here at Focus Church was hope. I felt hope. And then I started to truly understand that grace was for me, that I was saved so that I can continue on with my mission. And so we continued to come to church and we hid, right? We kind of hid in the back row. And side note, if you want to hide, Focus Church is not the place for you. Yeah. No, it's not. If you're newer, I hope you understand that because you probably got greeted by 50,000 people. But that's what happened to us. So we kind of hid. We stuck to the back. And then one day, Pastor Jenny approached me. I think she cornered me, more like it. And she asked me, hey, would you be willing to serve in our toddler room? Side note, toddlers don't mess around. They will sneeze in your face and then ask you if Jesus had a dog. It's like mind-blowing. I even got asked if their goldfish would be in heaven. I'm like, sure, yes, God made goldfish, so of course they're going to be in heaven. And so everything inside my being screamed, say no. Because did Pastor Jenny have any idea of the past that I was, who I used to be? If she did, I don't think she would be asking me to serve. I was under equipped. I didn't know the Bible. There was no way a person like me could teach little toddlers about Jesus. But I said yes. I said yes, and I began leading into the toddler room. And I began getting to teach, and teaching led me to leading in the elementary room. And leading in the elementary room led me to being asked to be on staff. And being on staff gave me that title, that coveted title of pastor. And being a pastor led me to hosting, and hosting led me to being right here on this platform with you today. You have absolutely no idea where your yes is going to lead or who it's going to give freedom to. And if you wonder why do we go and why do we say yes to our calling? 2 Corinthians 1:4 says it very clearly. He comforts us in all our trouble so that we can comfort others. When they are troubled, we will be able to give them the same comfort that God has given us. Your comfort, your healing, and your scars might be the very thing that unlocks freedom for someone else. You have absolutely no idea where it could lead. Mary Magdalene went from a tortured soul to a trusted companion. She got to follow Jesus around. How many of you would love to do that today? Just follow him around and listen to his teaching firsthand. Your willingness to share your story can unlock freedom. I can imagine Mary Magdalene, it doesn't say it in the Bible, but I can imagine her following Jesus around and being able to minister to women and children and people that maybe got to hear Jesus' word but not experience him firsthand. They got to experience Jesus through Mary Magdalene, all because she said yes. Because you see, over and over, like I said, and again, God's not looking for perfect. He was looking for a willing heart. He's simply looking for the person that stands and says, here I am, Jesus, use me. And that's what Mary did. She said yes, and she followed him around, and she followed him as he taught, and then she followed him up until the darkest of days. Mary Magdalene was there when Jesus was crucified. And on the morning of the resurrection, the tomb was sealed, the disciples were gone, the crowd had gone home, but Mary Magdalene, she stuck around. And this is what we see happen in John 20. Mary was standing outside the tomb crying. As she wept, she stooped and looked in. She saw two white-robed angels, one sitting at the head and the other at the foot of the place where the body of Jesus had been lying. Dear woman, why are you crying? The angels asked her. Because they have taken away my Lord, and I don't know where they have put him. She turned to leave and saw someone standing there. It was Jesus, but she didn't recognize him. Dear woman, why are you crying? Side note, why are they concerned about a woman crying? It's okay to cry. Jesus asked her, who are you looking for? She thought he was the gardener. Sir, she replied, if you have taken him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will go and get him. Mary, Jesus said. She turned to him and cried out, Rabboni, which is Hebrew for teacher. Don't cling to me, Jesus said, for I haven't ascended to the Father, but go and find my brothers and tell them I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God. Mary Magdalene found the disciples, and she told them, I have seen the Lord. Then she gave them his message. You see, it says on there, don't cling to me. I imagine Mary recognizing who Jesus was and just giving everything she had and falling on his knees and clinging to him. But why? Why Mary? Why did Jesus appear? He could have appeared to Peter, to Paul, to any of the disciples. But why did he pick the most unlikely person to reveal himself after the resurrection? And it's simple. It's because she stayed. She stayed when things got hard. She stayed in her pain. She stayed when everyone else left. She stayed when she had no idea what was going to happen or what was going on. She stayed. What if your breakthrough today is on the other side of your staying? Staying isn't easy. I understand that. Staying is when you're out of words. Staying is remembering that God's silence is not his absence. I want to say that again because I want you to truly believe it. God's silence is not his absence. So when you feel like you're not hearing from God, he is still there. You just have to stay. I think about all the years I waited to become a mom. My husband and I got married. We were attending church. Life was great. And now I was ready. We were ready. I think I was more ready than my husband was. But I was ready to have a baby. And so we tried. And we tried, and we got into fertility treatments, we looked at adoption, we fostered, we did all the things. And through the staying, there was pain, there was questions. There was times where I begged God to take the desire from my heart if it wasn't going to happen. There was times where I was jealous of all these women getting pregnant. There was so much pain, but yet I stayed. And it was just like that morning outside of the tomb when Jesus showed up. It wasn't this big miraculous pregnancy announcement. I didn't get a surprise positive test or an adoption match, but instead, it was a whisper. It was a message. And that whisper eventually became a little boy named Jaden. Jaden, who, by the way, has more energy than the entire cast of Encanto and ninja skills that are pretty epic. Check it out. If he'll show you, you got to see. But he is our miracle. He is my miracle. And he gave me that title of mama because I stayed. And I know that staying wasn't easy. I know when you're in the middle of your pain, it is hard. But there is a verse that I clung to over and over again in the middle of my staying. It's Galatians 6:9. So let's not get tired of doing what is good at just the right time. We will reap a harvest of blessing if we do not give up. Again, what miracle might be waiting for you? Mary got to see the resurrection in the middle of her staying. Imagine what miracle you could see if you choose to just stay. All right, now you're thinking in the middle of this message, cool, Pastor Jessica, God can use people that have passed. You just got to stay. But if you're like me, you're a doer. I will go 150,000 miles an hour all the time, nonstop. I don't rest. It's go, go, go. So what do you do in the middle of your staying? If you are like me, you need to be participating. And it's so simple. It's one word. All you have to do is say yes. Say yes. Somebody say yes. Yes. You see, again, time and time again, God still not looking for those perfect people. He's just looking for the ones that say yes. Mary Magdalene, she said yes in the beginning of our story when God called her to follow Jesus with everything that she had. And she said yes. And then we saw again in John when Jesus said, what did he say? Go and tell. And she said again, yes. She chose, she ran, and she told. She was obedient. You see, I think as humans, we kind of tend to overcomplicate obedience a little bit, yeah? We want to know all the details before we go. If you're like me, I want to know. God, I'll do it, but I need an Excel spreadsheet and a time-by-time calendar of events. God, I'm in as long as I'm comfortable. God, I am available as long as it fits into my calendar, my finances, and my emotional well-being. But that's not what God's asking. He's not going to give you the whole plan. Why? Because he simply wants you to trust him. If he told you all the details, where is the trust in that? He wants you to trust him. You see, your yes is as simple as saying this: I met Jesus and he changed everything. Imagine if you are at the checkout counter at Safeway, and side note, do this, because then Safeway is going to be like, what's going on in our community? You're checking out at the checkout station, and she says, how was your weekend? It was amazing. We had a powerful Sunday. Just mentioning Jesus in any way possible, it will change your life. So here I was serving in the Move Kids area, and I had said yes, and I had no master plan. There was no agenda. All I knew that it was what I wanted to do was tell people about how God changed my life. And I didn't know what that looked like, but God did. God knew that he was sending me to Move Kids. And some might not think much of Move Kids. It's Bible stories and crowd control during worship and lots of candy. I'm so sorry, parents, but that's how I bribe your children, and I'm not ashamed of it. But to me, every single moment in Move Kids has been sacred. Why? Because I get to tell kids about Jesus in a way that I wish someone had told me when I was a kid. I get to share with them that Jesus loves them no matter what. And in my brokenness, I wish someone had told me what I get to tell Move Kids every single weekend. You see, I started serving in Move Kids and telling them Bible stories in a really simple way, and I got to understand stories myself. And then I got to teach them about the gospel, and I started to understand something. You see, I was teaching them, but something else was happening. I was being changed. I wasn't helping, I was being transformed. I started to understand who God was for me, who Jesus was to me, all through getting to connect with kids. And guess what? There is nothing better than when a kid runs up to you in a hallway and gives you a hug and tells you that they love you, because you got to see their lives changed because they said yes to Jesus. And I still remember to this day the first child I got to see baptized saying yes to Jesus after being in that room. It changed my life. You see, I was not serving where I wanted. I had no intention of serving in the kids' room, but I was serving where I was needed. I was serving where God needed me to be, and it has absolutely changed my life in every single way possible. I want to tell you that you do not have to be fully healed to be used by God. In the middle of your pain, in the middle of your suffering, in the middle of your healing, you just have to say yes. And I'm looking at the youth. You guys might not have a past yet, but you can absolutely still be used. In fact, I want to brag on my youth. We have more youth serving in Move Kids than we do adults. Let's go. Come on. We have more youth serving in the kids' room. I want to put you on the spot, Tatum, because Tatum's one of our leaders. She leads the toddler room. She's not just assisting, she is absolutely leading, all because she said yes. And I know it has changed her life. You are not saved to be safe. You are saved to be sent. I want to tell you this. God didn't save you to sit on the sidelines. He saved you because he has a place for you on the field. So suit up. Stop playing it safe. Stop holding your story in and get out there and share the good news of God, because your life has been changed by God. So why can't we say what we are wanting to say to change other lives? He knows your past and he knows your struggles. Spoiler alert, God was there when you were in your mistakes, and he wasn't surprised by it. I think we have this image of God sitting on his throne like, nope, not that one. She screwed up way too much. On to the next person. No, that's not how God works. Mary didn't have it all together. She was not the ideal person to see the resurrection. She was a woman, which back then was a big deal. But in fact, Mary is actually mentioned in the Bible 12 times. That is more than some of the disciples. She was not a side player in his story. She was a main character, all because she had a willing heart and a simple yes. Church, I want to ask you to close your eyes for a moment. There's nothing miraculous about it. It's just a little bit of privacy for the person next to you and a moment for you just to shut out distractions in the room. Maybe you're here today and you've already said yes to Jesus before. You've said that yes, and you know he saved you, but if you're honest, you've been keeping your story quiet. You've been playing it safe. You see, you've been forgiven, but not mobilized. But today is the day that you are ready. You're ready to be sent, to step into your calling, to use what the enemy meant to destroy you as a weapon, to bring freedom to others. And if that's you today, if you're ready to go, if you're ready to be sent, I want you to slip your hand up and say to yourself, God, here I am, use me, send me. I want to pray for us today. God, I pray for every hand raised today. God, will you mobilize them? Will you give them the courage to step out of their comfort zone, to forget about their availability and their agenda and the things that they seem to want, but what needs to be said in a yes. Give them that courage to go and tell and to stop sitting on the sidelines and to be bold and go forth and spread your good news to change lives. God, don't let it stop here. Church, you can open your eyes. And now as we continue in this moment of connecting with God, if you raised your hand, if maybe you thought about raising your hand, if you felt that little nudge to raise your hand, don't let it stop here today. Because redemption isn't the end of your story. It is the beginning of your mission. I made the mistakes. I was redeemed and I slipped back into my old ways. I sinned again. But yet here I am today. And I can promise you, every single member of our staff has their own background and their own history, but yet God is still choosing to use them. God can use you. You just have to remember that you are on a mission. So, we do something here at Focus Church that we love. When it is time to step into a calling, we know that worship is the best way to get things going because we serve a mighty God who deserves all of our praise. So, church, will you stand with me today so that we can lift our voices and sing to the God who redeems and saves and forgives and reminds us that we are not safe to sit on that sidelines. We are sent and we are sent. Let's go, Pastor Frankie. What you got for us today?